Okay, it's evening, so I just wanted to invite you to another educational video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about gluten intolerance. So gluten intolerance is often mistaken for celiac disease, but it's not the same thing. Celiac disease actually is a severe autoimmune disease, and it can damage a person's digestive system. So with gluten intolerance, the problem with gluten intolerance and the things that we mostly see with gluten intolerance are things like basically diarrhea and constipation are common symptoms, but the diarrhea and constipation can be something that is not something that is only occasionally. It's something that is really experienced more than once, say almost every day. The other thing is bloating is a real big problem. It's a very common symptom that people report in cases of gluten intolerance, and it almost feels like your stomach is full and uncomfortable, and there's a buildup of gas in the area, and sometimes overeating is also the most common reason for bloating, but it can happen for different reasons as well. So in people with gluten intolerance, the feeling of bloating may actually occur very regularly and is not necessarily related to the amount of food they eat. So have you ever had, say, a piece of bread or something that contains gluten where you almost felt full and bloated afterwards? Now that is the feeling that you will have. The other thing is abdominal pain. Those can be cramping, or really cramping from specifically eating gluten, and you'll find that if you stop eating gluten, you'll find that cramping will not be there naturally. So I found within the last 2 months I haven't been eating very well, obviously because of the lockdown, and I regularly have that cramping because of the gluten intolerance. So I'm not necessarily gluten sensitive or celiac disease, but it definitely has an effect on my digestive system. The other one is fatigue. So mental fatigue can be one of those, or you can have brain fog. You feel tired after you've eaten. That, remember when you were little, your parents would say they need to go and sleep on a Sunday afternoon. That was because of that. Okay, so it's more or less the same. You feel like you want to go to bed after you've eaten. Nausea can also be one of the things that occurs with gluten intolerance. Headaches can be one of them, and then the other one is joint and muscle pains, and I must say that is something that I've experienced the last few weeks as well. Waking up in the morning and I feel everything is aching and pain. I struggle to get up, and I'm really not an old person, but it's just from eating incorrectly. A lot of sugar, a lot of gluten that I found has affected my body and how I move around. Depression and anxiety. It's actually been proven that gluten causes, as I said, it causes a problem within the gut as well. And remember, there's a link between the gut and the brain. So it has been proven to actually cause depression, confusion. It can also cause even anemia in some clients. So those are the things that can be caused by gluten intolerance, and the reason why we say you should not be having gluten is obviously because we don't want those conditions to continue in the body. The problem with having gluten intolerance, it's not something that can actually be tested by a doctor. So it is literally just cutting out gluten and seeing how your body reacts if you're not having gluten. So gluten is basically a protein that we find in wheat, any derivatives of wheat, barley, rye, brewer's yeast, pasta, breads, pastries, many baked goods, noodles, crackers, cereals. We get them in pancakes, in waffles, in biscuits, even in sauces and gravies. So in beers and in malt beverages. So if you have an intolerance for gluten, the only way of actually finding out whether you have that intolerance is to not have any gluten for about a week, and check, especially on your packages, whether there's gluten in even your spices has gluten in it. So make sure that your spices say gluten free, or try and get something that does not contain gluten. So, as I said, the most easiest way to actually determine whether you have gluten intolerance is to actually cut it from your diet and see how you feel. And a lot of people have found that if they cut out gluten, they actually feel much better, and they don't have that depression as well. So that is me for this evening. I hope that helped you a bit on gluten intolerance, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Bye.